Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening: the Sensex and the Nifty end the first week of 2025 with gains of 1% despite a lackluster Friday. Midcaps outperform up 2%, but the Nifty Bank Index closes in the red. The rupee remains largely steady against the dollar, even as it ends at a record closing low. Crude oil prices inch higher, hitting the highest level in over 2 months. Bitcoin prices inch back towards $100,000 as it marks its 16th birthday. Crypto investors are betting on a favorable market environment under the Trump administration in the hope that the U.S. Congress will pass its first ever crypto-focused legislation. The trial in the securities and wire fraud case against Gautam Adani and others is all set to get expedited. A U.S. court assigns all 3 cases related to civil and criminal violations to the same judge. CNBC-TV18 exclusively learns the cases have not been combined but have only been assigned to one judge for efficiency to avoid conflicting schedules. In a bid to break the stranglehold of Boeing and Airbus, China's aircraft maker Comac is eyeing rapid expansion. Financial Times reports the state-run aircraft maker is targeting Southeast Asia in an attempt to spread its wings. FBI says there is no definitive link between the New Orleans truck attack and the Tesla Cybertruck explosion outside a Trump hotel in Vegas. President-elect Trump blames the Biden administration's immigration policies, calling Biden the worst president in U.S. history. More than 70 people killed in Gaza in the last 24 hours as Israel's relentless airstrikes continue in the new year. More than 45,500 people have been killed in Palestine in the last 15 months. South Korea's political crisis deepens. Tense standoff between investigators and guards inside impeached President Yoon's official residence. Investigators call off the attempt to arrest Yoon, say execution impossible. Yoon supporters gather outside his residence. The architect of one of India's worst financial scandals, Ketan Parekh, has been banned by SEBI once again. Market regulator also impounds 66 crore rupees for alleged front-running trades of a US-based fund. Well, let's start with the market action today. The Sensex and the Nifty declined in trade, even as the markets ended the week with gains of 1%. Now, the Nifty moving closer to 24,000, down 183 points. The Sensex ending the day 720 points lower. The Nifty Bank lost about 600 points, and the Nifty Midcap Index was down by about 170-odd points today. That was the story for the day, but for the week, the Nifty has gained 1%. The Midcap Index gained over 2%, and the Nifty Bank Index, though, was down by about 0.5% or so. Prashant is here now to wrap up the market action for us. Prashant, week one draws to a close.
Well, a down day after what, of course, was a very, very sharp rally that we had yesterday. Remember, this was something we were talking about through the course of the day. Yesterday, the market went up the way it did in a bit of a vacuum with global markets, which were completely absent. Global markets mostly all started trading last night. And the cue from there was nothing very negative. It was just that, equities were down, yields were slightly higher, but the dollar index was up sharply, about 0.7% when we came into trade this morning. So you had about a 150 plus point kind of a cut as far as the Nifty is concerned. Nifty Bank will come up on your screen, something similar. Mid caps and small cap indices outperformed what the large caps did, and that's the reason why overall market breadth stayed positive, never really faltered through the course of today's session. Actually, the one area which continues to do well is the PSU space. All kinds of PSUs. If you just look at the CPSE index, which has been doing well for the last few days, was up and about today as well. Now, we had, just to sort of highlight what was down, Wipro, HDFC Bank, Tech Mahindra, Adani Ports, ICICI Bank were some names which came in and saw some selling pressure. On the upside, you had ONGC, Tata Motors, Titan, SBI Life and HUL, which participated with gains, but nothing spectacular or major. Now, broader markets, I'll start with what was up since breadth was positive. D-Mart was a big gainer, top one, started higher, ended 10% plus in the green. Saregama, Wockhardt continues its move higher. Of course, it sold off from the day's high. All the Lloyd Group companies, Lloyd Metals, Lloyd's Engineering, Lloyd's Enterprises, these were all up between 5 and 10, 11% today. You had Just Dial, which was up 5.5%. Names like ITDC was up. Kingfa, 6.5% higher. Just really going down the list because volumes were still a little thin, and that's to be expected as people just sort of start to trickle back into markets in terms of larger institutions, etc. On the downside, Zomato was the number one volume-led loser, about a 4.5% cut. Angel One, 4% cut today. There was Wipro, which was down 3%. Nalco down 4%. You had KPI Green. I think there was a corporate adjustment here today. Novama was down about 3%, back under 7,000 rupees. V-Mart started higher, ended down about 4% or so. So enough on the downside as well. So again, sort of in a bit of a flux really, because 10 days the market really did nothing. Yesterday there was a big pop and there were expectations that maybe, we're starting to turn the corner. It's going to be an interesting January, a packed one. The big event, of course, is going to be Trump's inauguration, which is on the 20th of January. Back to you.
All right, Prashant, many thanks for joining us. Now, the National Stock Exchange recorded new milestones in 2024, including the highest number of IPOs in Asia and the highest equity capital raised in the primary market anywhere in the world. According to a statement from the NSE, 2024 saw 90 main board IPOs and 178 SME IPOs, totaling 268 offers in the calendar year. Compare this with China, which saw 101 IPOs, 93 in Japan and 66 in Hong Kong. A total of $19.5 billion were raised by the primary market issues at the NSE, and this is the highest in the world. The Nasdaq saw IPOs raise over $16.5 billion. Funds raised at the NYSE were just under $16 billion. Hong Kong at over $10 billion and Shanghai just under $9 billion. So the NSE marking a record in 2024. The rupee remained largely steady against the dollar, even as it closed at another record low. The currency weakened by a paise against the greenback, ending the day at 85.77. The 10-year bond and yields also remained steady today. Veteran emerging market investor Mark Mobius says a depreciating rupee is good news, not only for software companies, but also for manufacturing companies and their exports. Take a look.
The other factor I think is very important, and that is for those companies that are exporting, let's say Infosys that exports a lot of software, they are going to become more competitive because of the weakening rupee. So I think you've got to look at many of these stocks that have a US dollar income component will continue to do very, very good. And I think we're on this cusp of more exports coming out of India, not only in the software area, but also in manufacturing.
Well, that's Mark Mobius there. Crude oil prices at their highest level in the last 2 months. Brent crude ended 2024 lower by 3%. Crude oil prices have stayed benign for the last 2 years, declining by 10% in 2023. China's promise to unleash fiscal stimulus to revive economic growth would lift demand for fuel. Investors also bet on rate cuts from the US Fed to bolster demand. Volumes in the crude oil markets also improved as traders return from their holidays. Now, Bitcoin has turned 16. The cryptocurrency's price has skyrocketed from 80 cents in 2010 to a record high of $100,000 in 2024. Crypto investors have been betting on a favorable market environment under the Trump regime and are hoping the US Congress will pass its first ever crypto-focused legislation. Manisha is here with more on Bitcoin's 16-year journey. Manisha.
Well, Bitcoin turns sweet 16 on 3rd of January 2025. It was launched, remember, on 3rd of January in 2009. It started to trade properly only by mid-2010. But in the last 16 years, we've seen prices see a lot of highs and a lot of lows as well. The one thing that has worked in favor of Bitcoin is the fact that you can only have a maximum of 21 million coins. And while the supply is fixed, the demand clearly has been increasing over the years. Well, we have seen a record high of $108,000 in cents of Bitcoin in the month of December 2024. When Bitcoin started in 2010, the price was at around $0.4 to $0.8 there. So it has been a stupendous run that we have seen come in for Bitcoin. Well, there have been various reasons for this run up, especially in the year of 2024. One, you have the Bitcoin ETFs available now, where you have institutions as well and funds also putting in money or buying Bitcoin for their clients. Ethereum as a ETF also is available. And then US is expected to bring in friendly regulations with the US President Trump coming in. And then you have various countries adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender as well, and some more contemplating it. Also, a lot of naysayers have turned positive, are looking at cryptocurrencies in a more favorable light. Is another reason that you have seen the prices go up here. Well, this is a chart that shows you on how the journey has been from 2009 until 2024 for Bitcoin. Most of the years, as you can see, have given very, very strong returns. 2010 itself was 30,000% up on the higher side. But look at these 3 years where you have seen declines as well come in. So 2014, 2018, 2022, barring these 3 years, 13 years and last 16 years actually have given you quite stronger returns. Well, when it comes to 2025 as well, while we are getting into the new year with a lot of hopes there and expectations, but only time will tell on how much of this really converts into possibilities when it comes to cryptocurrencies.
Well, the rise and rise of Bitcoin. Manisha, many thanks. In international news, the FBI has confirmed that there is no definitive link between the New Orleans truck attack and the Tesla Cybertruck explosion outside a Trump hotel in Vegas. The Bureau added that Shamsuddin Jabbar, the accused in the New Orleans terror case, acted alone. They added that 3 phones and 2 laptops connected to Jabbar have also been recovered. Meanwhile, the Tesla Cybertruck explosion suspect Matthew Livels was found dead inside the vehicle. Officials said that he shot himself in the head before the truck exploded. The suspect had served time in Afghanistan and Ukraine as part of the U.S. military. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has blamed Joe Biden's immigration policy for the series of violent attacks in the first few days of the new year. In a post on social media platform X, Trump called outgoing President Joe Biden the worst president in the history of America. And Israeli forces continue to bombard Gaza, killing at least 17 Palestinians in the series of attacks since this morning. They also continue to attack humanitarian zones across the region. Officials in Gaza have said that Israeli forces have carried out heinous crimes across the Strip, with 34 airstrikes that killed at least 71 Palestinians in 24 hours. The UN has denounced Israel's move to attack hospitals in Gaza, citing medical facilities are off limits to military attacks. Ukrainian President Zelensky has said that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump could help end the war with Russia. In a televised interview, Zelensky said that Trump's decisiveness and unpredictability could help Kyiv stop Russian President Vladimir Putin. His comments came after Ukrainian military said it carried out a precision strike on a Russian command post in the Kursk region. Russian officials have also confirmed the attack, adding that 4 Ukrainian missiles were downed in that region. The trial in the securities and wire fraud case against Gautam Adani and others is all set to be expedited. A U.S. court has assigned all 3 cases related to the civil and criminal violations to a single judge. CNBC-TV18 exclusively learns that the cases have not been combined, but have only been assigned to one judge for efficiency and to avoid conflicting schedules. Pariksha joins us now with the details. Pariksha, take us through what is now likely to happen.
Well, we have been following this case closely, and we know that there are 2 cases that have been filed in the United States against Gautam Adani and others for alleged bribery of Indian government officials, state government officials, in connection with a effort to secure solar power contracts. And they have been charged for misrepresentation and bribery in the United States because in a way they have misled US investors. Now, what has happened is that a US court has assigned now all the cases in this matter to a single judge. The cases have not been combined, but now will all be heard by a single judge for judicial efficiency. The court has also noted that all the cases arise from similar allegations and from the same transaction of events. So they have been assigned to one US district judge who will be hearing the matter, and he will be looking at both the SEC case, which leads to market developments and market violations, and the criminal case which had been filed at the Eastern District of New York Court, now which was a criminal case against Gautam Adani and others, where their imprisonment and warrants were also issued. So let's see what happens in this case. Adani Green Energy is at the center of these allegations for paying $265 million in bribes to Indian officials. Now, this is as per the US DOJ. The Adani Group has refuted all these allegations, saying that the Adani Group or Gautam Adani and his associates have not been charged for corruption or under the US Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, but they have been accused of securities and wire fraud and misrepresentation by the US court. So what happens now is that all the cases are moving to a single judge, and this could speed up the manner in which these cases are taken up in the months to come.
Parikshit, many thanks. Blackstone has plans to sell its majority stake packaging company EPL. Sources have told Money Control that the private equity giant has roped in Morgan Stanley as its advisor. Ashwin Mohan joins us now with more details. Ashwin, what is the size of the deal and when can we expect the sale?
Right, so this is a big bang deal that is brewing in the packaging solution space as far as the listed universe is concerned. Money Control had reported back in October 30th that Blackstone the world's biggest private equity giant was exploring a strategic review of its portfolio company, EPL Limited. EPL, of course, was formerly called SL Propack Limited. Now, what we're given to understand from our sources is that Blackstone has roped in top investment bank Morgan Stanley as an advisor to explore the sale of a majority stake. Blackstone, of course, is the promoter of EPL. It had picked up that majority stake more than 5 years back in 2019. So it's a mature investment ripe for exit. What we are also given to understand from our sources is that Blackstone is expecting a significant premium in terms of valuation. It holds around a 51% stake. And if one way to look at the close just a day before, based on that close, that 51% stake amounts to around 4,300 crore rupees. So that's the kind of ticket size we are talking about as far as this deal is concerned. Now, in the past, there are many private equity firms that have explored the block deal route to exit their portfolio firms. But this time around, Blackstone, even though it has done a block deal earlier in EPL, is not keen on the block deal route. What it is looking at is a complete and full stake sale at one go. Sources are also telling us that this proposed transaction has seen preliminary interest from both private equity suitors as well as strategic players. Now, in terms of official responses, Blackstone has declined to comment. We're still awaiting to hear from the company and Morgan Stanley, but keep an eye out on this one, a big bang one coming in from the packaging space. Back to you.
Ashton, many thanks. We will head into a break, but up next, retail chain stage a strong comeback in Q3, registered strong revenue growth despite growing appetite for quick commerce. That and more when we return. The MD of Indian Hotels, Puneet Chhatwal, is optimistic about demand strengthening in 2025. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Chhatwal maintained that he believes demand from foreign tourists will strengthen in the coming year after having dipped last year. Take a look.
We remain very optimistic, and only one place where the sector is lagging behind is foreign tourist arrivals in India. And with our very energetic tourism minister, I also remain optimistic on that front that we will put some right levers in place to increase those arrivals and get to that 100 million target, what we have set for by 2047.
That's the outlook for tourism. India's leading departmental stores staged a comeback in Q3 after the quick commerce wave rocked their boat in the September quarter. Shilpa standing by with more. Shilpa, the rise of quick commerce, of course, remains a key risk for departmental stores, but it looks like they're fighting back.
No, definitely they cannot be written off yet, and sales saw a comeback in the third quarter, and that's why the stocks of these retail chains were in focus today after they reported strong updates for the third quarter. Let's start with the big boy, D-Mart. Standalone revenues up 17.5% with 10 stores being added in the quarter. Now, remember, this comes after last quarter numbers were rather disappointing amid competition from quick commerce, but reaction from brokerages were mixed. They say that while revenue grew and the same-store sales growth of about 5.5% was above expectations, competition from the rapidly scaling quick commerce space continues to remain a risk. Now, the stock hit a high of 15% today on the back of the strong numbers. Next was V2 Retail, which came in very strong again with a 58% revenue growth and 25% same-store sales growth. Now, this stock also hit an upper circuit of 5% since morning. V-Mart also reported a 16% growth in revenue. This was a year-on-year, and it saw a sequential growth of about 55%. But while the stock surged up to about 4% in trade, it ended in the red. But it's important to note here that this stock had already rallied over 80% in the past year. Now, the cheer also interestingly rubbed off on the recently listed Vishal Megamart. It didn't really report any update, but that also surged as high as 9% in trade today. Now, these three companies, right, V-Mart, V2, Vishal, these are all companies that majorly operate in tier 2-3 cities. And they have this quarter benefited majorly from the festive season and the wedding season that has started in full swing in the last couple of months. Back to you.
All right, Shilpa, many thanks. Now, the CEO of Nykaa's beauty business, Anchit Nair, says India still has one of the lowest per capita consumptions in beauty and personal care. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Nair said that despite this, there is increased knowledge about beauty products in consumers, adding that the higher average order value is coming in from tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
kind of GDP growth that the country is seeing, the kind of middle class that is growing, and the amount of aspiration, especially in smaller towns, we think that it bodes very well for discretionary categories like beauty for many years to come. The kind of sophisticated ingredients that consumers are now engaging with, especially on the skincare side. So search volumes for things like alpha-arbutin, retinol, niacinamide are growing, are growing leaps and bounds. And it's showing you that the Indian consumer is developing a certain level of awareness for this category, and Nykaa plays a big role in that.
Well, trends in the beauty market. Now, the global aircraft manufacturing industry largely dominated by just two players, Boeing and Airbus. China is attempting to break the stranglehold with COMAC. The Financial Times reports that the state-run aircraft maker is eyeing expansion in Southeast Asia as it attempts to spread its wings. Madhiya reports on China's plans to shake up the skies.
On 28th May 2023, China's first self-developed large passenger plane, the C919, completed its inaugural commercial flight. The plane took off from Shanghai and landed in Beijing, marking its official entry into the civil aviation market. The flight with 128 passengers on board was operated by China Eastern Airlines. Manufactured by the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, or COMAC, the first C919 was delivered to China Eastern in December 2022. The second plane followed in July 2023. By August 2024, Air China and China Southern Airlines received their first C919s. As of December 19, 2024, COMAC has delivered 14 C919 aircraft to these three Chinese airlines, with China Eastern Airlines taking the lead with 9 planes. Then, in a significant milestone, the C919 made its first international flight on 31st December 2024, completing a scheduled journey to Hong Kong. The Chinese government-owned manufacturer now sets its sights on expanding to international skies, starting with Southeast Asia. The C919, which can carry around 190 passengers and has a range of nearly 5,500 kilometers, it is a close competitor to popular narrow-body planes like the Airbus A320 and Boeing 737 MAX. Both of these giants supply to majority of the world's airlines, but are currently grappling with supply chain challenges. Boeing's deliveries of the 737 MAX have been delayed, partially due to safety concerns and employee protests at its production lines. According to International Air Transport Association, or IATA, the global backlog for new aircraft has reached a record high of 17,000 planes. So could COMAC's C919 play a significant role in filling this growing supply gap? While COMAC has delivered 14 C919 aircraft since its first flight, Boeing is expected to produce 29 737 MAX planes per month in 2025. Meanwhile, Airbus produced between 46 to 47 A320 family aircraft every month in 2024. So COMAC will need to up its game multifold to match these companies. And to challenge the industry titans, Boeing and Airbus, COMAC still has several hurdles to overcome. Although China has made substantial progress in designing and manufacturing the C919, the aircraft still relies heavily on foreign suppliers for critical components, like the C919 uses engines from CFM International. COMAC has a limited experience in large-scale commercial aircraft production and faces the crucial question of international market acceptance. And then there's the issue of certification. It remains to be seen if the C919 will meet the stringent standards set by international aviation.
All right, Madhiya, many thanks for joining us. China there, hoping to take on Boeing and Airbus. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned. We're back in a moment with more.